If you've ever walked into a room and suddenly thought, wait, why am I here? You're not alone. And if you've ever had a word sitting right on the tip of your tongue, but it just wouldn't come out, that can feel unsettling too. Maybe you've noticed your balance is a little different these days, or you feel a strange tingling in your hands or feet that you can't quite explain. Now, it's easy for the mind to jump to scary places, but let's take a slow breath together. Because sometimes what feels like something is seriously wrong is actually your body asking for something very specific. So today, we're going to talk about one of the most overlooked senior health tips for brain clarity, nerve comfort, and steady independence, making sure your brain and nervous system aren't running low on vitamin B12. Before we go any further, let me ask you something, because it's a question worth sitting with. Have you ever caught yourself worrying about your memory and then feeling your stress rise even more? If you have, that makes sense. Stress tightens the body and it can make you feel foggier, not clearer. But here's the hopeful part. When you slow down and look at what your body truly needs, you often find simple, practical steps that can support real improvement. So let's walk through this calmly, like we're talking across a kitchen table. Because for some people, especially as they get older, B12 can quietly drop and the symptoms can look a lot like rapid aging, even when it's really a correctable deficiency. Not always and not for everyone, but often enough that it's worth understanding. You can think of vitamin B12 as a support vitamin for your nervous system. Your nerves are like a network of electrical wires, and healthy nerves are wrapped in a protective coating, like insulation. So signals travel smoothly from your brain down to your feet and back again. When B12 is low for too long, that insulation can suffer. And when that happens, you may notice things like this. You feel tingling or numbness in hands and feet. You feel unsteady on your feet, especially in the dark or on stairs. You feel more fatigued than usual, even after sleep. You feel mentally slower, like your thoughts are moving through molasses. You feel more forgetful, more distracted, more frustrated. And here's why this matters. Those symptoms can be mistaken for just getting older. But sometimes, it's not just aging. It's your body working with less of what it needs. Now, let's pause for one essential detail that can change how you understand what's happening. You could be eating fairly well and still not absorbing enough B12. And as you age, your stomach acid naturally tends to decline. On top of that, some common medications can interfere with absorption. So you might be doing your best, but your body isn't able to unlock the B12 from the food you're eating. That's why this topic is so important. Not to scare you, not to label you, but to give you options. Because senior health tips aren't just about what to avoid. They're about what to add, gently and consistently, so your body can do what it was designed to do: repair, recover, and stay steady. So what can you do, starting this week, that actually supports your B12 status? Let's start with food, because food is one of the simplest places to begin. One powerful source people don't think about much is shellfish, especially clams. This doesn't mean you have to become a clam lover overnight, but clams are naturally rich in B12, and they also bring iron and protein, two things that can support energy too. If seafood is already part of your life, you might try a simple clam-based soup or a pasta dish with clams once in a while. And if you don't love the texture, you can still use the idea and look for B12-rich foods that feel realistic for you. Because the best food is the one you'll actually eat. Here's another one that some people have strong opinions about: liver. If liver makes you think of childhood dinners you never want to repeat, I understand. But nutritionally speaking, liver is dense. It contains B12 and other nutrients that support the body's systems. And you don't need a huge portion. Some people do it once a week. Some people choose a supplement version instead. And that's the key here. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be supported. With that said, let's talk about a food that's more familiar for most people: fatty fish. We are referring to salmon, sardines, and trout. Fatty fish can offer B12 and omega-3 fats. And that combination matters because omega-3s support brain structure and calm inflammation, while B12 supports nerve function. So you're supporting the wiring and the environment around the wiring. And this is one of those senior health tips that doesn't feel like a medical plan. It feels like dinner. You season a piece of salmon with lemon. You bake it. The kitchen smells warm and clean. You eat slowly, and your body responds. Not with a jolt, but with steady support. This is how real food works. Slowly, consistently, and deeply. But maybe you're listening and thinking, what if I don't eat much animal food at all? If so, this next option matters to you even more. Fortified nutritional yeast. It has a savory, cheesy flavor and can be sprinkled onto foods like popcorn, soups, vegetables, so it's easy to use. And because many plant foods don't naturally contain reliable B12, fortified foods can help fill that gap. If you've been mostly plant-based and you've felt more foggy or tingly than you expected, this can be a gentle place to start. Now let's bring it back to breakfast, because mornings can set the tone for the entire day. Eggs, especially the yolk, contain B12, and the way you cook them can matter. Overcooking can reduce some nutrients, so a softer yolk can be a nice choice if your body tolerates it. Picture this: morning light across the kitchen counter, a warm mug in your hands, 2 eggs and a piece of whole grain toast. Keep in mind that you're not dieting, instead you're fueling. Let me ask a quick question here, and then I'll give you a practical answer right away. Have you noticed that when you eat a more nourishing breakfast, your mind feels a little steadier, even by mid-morning? If the answer is yes, that's not in your head. When blood sugar is more stable and protein is present, you often feel more focused and less shake. So pairing B12-friendly foods with balanced meals can support clarity in a very real way. Now, remember the essential detail we talked about? Even if you eat B12 foods often, absorption can be the real issue. As stomach acid declines with age, the body may have a harder time separating B12 from protein in food. And some medications, especially those used for reflux or diabetes, can contribute to lower B12 over time. So what do you do if absorption is the problem? This is where supplementation becomes a reasonable conversation, especially for adults over 60. Not as a trend, not as hype, just as a practical support. Many people prefer the form called methylcobalamin, which is an active form of B12. And many people prefer sublingual tablets or drops, meaning you let it dissolve under your tongue because it can bypass the stomach and absorb through the tissues in the mouth. That's not a promise of instant transformation, but for some people, it can feel like a gentle lifting of brain fog over a few weeks. More energy, better focus, and less of the feeling of, where did my sharpness go? And if you're doing that, there's one more key piece that often gets overlooked. B12 likes to work with a partner. That partner is folate, also known as vitamin B9. Think of B12 and folate as teammates. When you have both, your body is better supported in healthy blood function and nervous system support. And that can matter for oxygen delivery, energy, and overall brain health. So practical senior health tips here look like this. If you're increasing B12, also increase leafy greens. Spinach, kale, broccoli, romaine, arugula, not as a punishment, as a simple add-on. A side salad, a handful of greens in soup, a sautéed green with garlic. Small steps, steady results. Now, I want to talk about something so simple that people underestimate it, and that is hydration, because nerves and the brain function better when the body is well hydrated. And many older adults don't drink enough water, sometimes because thirst cues change, and sometimes because people are trying not to run to the bathroom so often. But dehydration can worsen confusion and fatigue. So if you're supporting your brain with nutrition, support it with water too. A glass in the morning, another at lunch, one mid-afternoon. Not all at once, just steady moments throughout the day that support your body. Let me ask another question, and again I'll tie it back. Have you ever noticed that on days you're even a little dehydrated, your mood and focus feel off? If you have, that's a real pattern. The brain is sensitive, and hydration helps circulation deliver nutrients to where they need to go. So water can quietly amplify the benefits of the food and habits you're building. Now let's talk about the emotional side, because it also greatly matters. When you feel foggy or you forget a word, it can make you want to shrink your world. You might skip social plans, You might talk less in groups. You might quietly worry that you're slipping. But isolation doesn't protect the brain, it drains it. On the flip side, connection supports you, movement supports you, and a sense of hope supports you. So if this has been happening to you, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not broken and you're not alone. You may simply need a clearer plan. And one of the best plans is to test, not guess. Next time you see your doctor, ask about checking your vitamin B12 level. And you can also ask about homocysteine. A simple blood test can measure levels, as it's a marker that can relate to B vitamin status. When you do get tested, here's something important to keep in mind. Normal range on a lab report isn't always the same as optimal. So if you're told you're in range, but you're on the low end and you have symptoms, it's okay to ask more questions. It's okay to advocate for yourself. Because your goal isn't to be barely okay. Your goal is to feel steady, clear, and confident. Let me ask one more reflective question here. When was the last time you asked your doctor for what you truly want? Optimal health, not just good enough. If it's been a while, that's understandable. Many of us were taught not to bother the doctor, but your health is worth the conversation, and clear testing can replace fear with facts. Now, one more piece that fits into this whole picture: gut health. If your digestion is irritated, too much processed food, too much sugar, too many inflammatory oils, your gut lining can become less effective. And that can make nutrient absorption harder across the board. So when you move toward whole foods, you're not just eating clean. You're supporting the environment where nutrients get absorbed. That's one reason this work can create a ripple effect. Your digestion improves, your energy improves, your mood improves, your movement improves, and your confidence improves. And speaking of movement, movement matters here too. Not because you need intense exercise, but because walking and gentle strength work improves circulation. And circulation is how nutrients get delivered. Think of food and supplements as the building materials, and think of movement as the delivery system. A daily walk or a little light strength movements. A few minutes of balance practice near the counter. This is how you protect independence, quietly, consistently, on purpose. So let's bring it all together in a calm, doable roadmap. If you're noticing brain fog, forgetfulness, balance changes, tingling, or unusual fatigue, one possible contributor is low vitamin B12. Not always, but often enough to check. You can support B12 with foods like shellfish, liver, fatty fish, eggs, and fortified foods, especially if you eat mostly plant-based. And if absorption is an issue, because of age, low stomach acid, or certain medications, sublingual B12, often methylcobalamin, can be a practical option to discuss. You support B12 even better with folate-rich greens, and you support the whole system with hydration, gut-friendly whole foods, and steady movement. That's how you turn worry into "I have a plan." That's how you turn confusion into clarity. That's how you turn fear into calm action. One of the best senior health tips of all. Now here's the final question I'll leave you with before we close. What's one small change you're willing to try this week? Adding eggs at breakfast, eating fish twice, asking for a B12 test, or drinking more water? Because when you choose one simple step and you repeat it, your body often rewards you. Not overnight, but steadily. And that steady progress is how independence is built. Because the truth is that you're not too old to improve. You're not too far gone to feel clearer, and you don't need a perfect routine to see change. You need a gentle, honest start. Every day is another chance to care for the body that's carried you this far. Keep learning, keep moving, keep believing in your own strength. Because aging isn't slowing down, it's leveling up. If today's message resonated, take a moment to subscribe. Leave a thought in the comments or share this video with someone who could use a little encouragement. Because together we're proving that aging well isn't the exception, it's the standard.